But we have some real cool people coming up here. Let me introduce the first person. Her name is Nicole Suissa, a mom, a corporate attorney, and a TED Talk speaker. How about that? Let's hear it for Nicole.
Thank you. Hey everybody, can y'all hear me okay? All right. Somewhere between scheduling my daughter's C-section delivery so that I could make the bar exam, being denied a nursing accommodation during the bar exam, and expressing breast milk into a bathroom toilet in Atlantic City on my lunch break, to learning to tiptoe the societal tightrope of expectations and personal guilt in managing motherhood in a corporate career, I realized something that many of us here probably have already hit like a brick wall. As a society, we are involuntarily playing an unfair game. And when I say we, I do mean all of us. What if I told you that how you perceive an issue, how you describe an issue, rather, reflects how you perceive it? Let me show you. We're going to play a quick word association game. I'm going to say a word. I want you to shout out the first word you think it's associated with. You ready? All right, let's do it. Peanut butter and? Hey. Work from? Stay at home? Uh-huh. Isn't it interesting that when picturing a stay-at-home parent, a lot of us picture a mother? And if you did so, you're certainly not alone. There's no judgments. According to the National Women's Law Center, since the start of the pandemic, the American workforce lost 5.5 million women. Are we surprised? No. Right? So as schools closed, obviously it was women to quit their jobs or take leave to stay home and become caretakers and educators at the cost of their careers, but also at the cost of our national GDP. So, where does that leave all you fine daddies and zaddies, fellas? Perceiving domestic work as women's work is not only harmful to the family structure and stability, but is really becoming far less accurate in today's evolving society. Let's be real. Families do not look the way they did 50 years ago. In 1986, sociologist Arlene Kaplan-Daniels came up with a name for this perception. Probably a name a lot of us can relate with and empathize with. It's called invisible work. Invisible work, say it with me now. Invisible work is exactly what it sounds like. It's unpaid work around the home, work that stay-at-home moms characteristically did, work that kept our society sustained for decades, even as more women started to join the workforce. And now we're at a record number, actually. Women outnumber their male classmates in college classrooms all around the country. But you see, even as more women join the workforce, now at a record high, invisible work never really became visible. Right? And Congress has yet to recognize its incontrovertible value to American society and economy. And that devaluation hurts our men just as much as it hurts our women. According to the Pew Research Center, we have about 2.2 million stay-at-home dads in this country and counting. That number is growing. It's also a record number, by the way. The US Department of Labor says that there's 41% of women who are either the sole or the primary breadwinners of their households, and that would include our cohort of single mothers. The perception that this becomes a woman's problem is one that not only hurts men, right, because we have essentially satirically feminized the male stay-at-home dad, but that perception hurts women even more in helping them advocate for the subsidies and advantages that their counterparts all over the world are already enjoying. You see, as inflation is speeding up, this general expectation that women should be wives and mothers and little else remains painfully stagnant. Indeed, we'll take a state that I'm very fond with, a state I went to law school in, Pennsylvania. We'll take that state, for example. In Pennsylvania, a female corporate executive who happens to be a mother who has to work away from her child occasionally can be openly accused in family court of abandoning her child. While a father who indeed abandons his career and financial obligations, sometimes in failed pursuit of mom's parallel career, is lauded for wholesome parenting. See this perception problem we're having? So even in areas where mothers are largely expected to gain ground, we're losing. We're losing. The societal lack of interest and recognition in the working mother essentially bleeds into every structure that this country operates on. That word game we just played a second ago is one of the most expensive word games our society has been playing for decades. According to Bloomberg, if we were to subsidize childcare and start investing in parenting in the family unit, particularly the working mother, so that both parents can equitably participate in the workforce, our GDP would grow by about $1.6 trillion by 2028. Do not adjust your volume. Y'all all heard me correctly. Write the number down. $1.6 trillion by 2028. That's a yielding investment. And a lot of the world has already caught on to this, right? So we're going to take a short trip around the world, like it's going to be like 30 seconds or less. You ready? Grab your passports. According to the Organization for Economic Development, the US is dead last in what it invests in early childhood care and development. Dead last. In Norway, they're spending $29,726 per child. In Sweden, they're spending $18,010 per child. In Germany, $18,565 per child. In Spain, $9,084 per child. In Israel, where my paternal family is from, they're spending $3,327 per child. Hold on. After they subsidize your delivery and they send you home with a congratulatory stipend for every child that you have in an Israeli hospital. It's their little way of saying, Mazal tov, good luck with your baby. Now, I've heard a lot of the counter arguments. I've talked to a lot of business owners. I've heard a lot of the concerns, and they make sense. So let's talk about them. Nicole, a lot of the countries you named have lower populations, higher tax rates. They can pull this off in ways we can't. This is a great idea, but we can't afford it. It's always comes down to the numbers. So let's talk about those numbers. Now, before I do that, before I make my empirical arguments, let's see what we're up against. The average cost for childcare in the US is $10,000 per child for a child from 0 to 5. That number will rise or decrease depending on where you're at. Here in Jersey, it's a hell of a lot more than that. Everybody's nodding their heads because they already know. According to the US Department of Health and Human Services, households should not exceed 7% of household income to pay for childcare. Yeah, right. The average that a household is paying in the US is 29% for a two-income household and up to 52% for a single-income household. And those figures get way more dramatic when you start to factor in other demographics. Is the single-parent household a Latina household? Is a single-parent household a minority household? How educated is that household? Those numbers start to fly off the handles when you start to really think about what that household looks like. The truth is, we're no longer the fastest growing GDP in the world. We're one of the largest, that's still true, but we're not the fastest. And we should really think about why not. There are other countries in the world that are surpassing us, places like Guyana, places you would never think about, that you think of surpassing us in strength economically, and they are. And what are they doing that we're not? They're investing in their workforce, they're investing in their family structure, they're investing in childcare, they're providing paid maternity leave, they're providing the time off, they're making sure that mothers have the time to be mothers and also be educated and be professionals, and we're just not up to that. We're not doing it. So, what can we do? While my general hope is that I've stoked a little discussion here and you guys go to your employers or your colleagues or your families and you talk about this and you come up with some amazing ideas that we can collectively use, I'm going to leave you with 3 baby steps, pun intended, to start with. 1, changes in the tax code. 2, employee incentives and benefits. And 3, corporate incentives. We need to bring in the employers into this too. So let's talk about changes in the tax code. And I'm going to pick on one example that I found in the tax code on a day that I was bored searching Google. Let's talk about the charitable contribution deduction. I'm not going to go into the text and bore you. I swear I'm not that kind of lawyer. The charitable contribution deduction is a deduction that you can use for any contributions you make in that tax year. It's applicable to both people and corporations, because here in America, corporations are people too. But there's 4 basic conditions. The deduction cannot exceed 50% of the donor's income, okay? It's only available to people who itemize their deductions. The deduction is based on the market value of the gift, not necessarily what you spent on it. And this is the most important thing. The deduction is based on the donor's tax rate, So that means that different deductions may apply to different gifts of the same value. So let's think about this then. That also means there's wiggle room in this part of the tax code for things that would offset our expenses without putting an imbalance to our political equilibrium. I swear this is not a political discussion. This is an economic discussion. So what else can we do? If you looked at the tax code, you'd find a plethora of ways that we can find the resources we need to make this happen for us as a state, as a country. And thankfully, I don't know if you were here yesterday to listen to the Lieutenant Governor. She talked about how New Jersey is the future and the things that we're doing that are innovative. She is absolutely right. New Jersey is one of the only states right now that is offering this maternity leave program. We have more work to do, but hey, we're trying. We're making steps. So what else can we do to make this a reality and make sure that New Jersey leads the way for the rest of the country? Let's talk about our corporate packages and employee benefits. This work from home thing was a game changer for women. And a lot of employers are starting to realize that, and that's important that they're doing so. Let's talk about corporate incentives. When we give employers incentives like, hey, you kept your employees during COVID. Here's a great big tax deduction and benefit to you for doing the right thing. This should be categorized as one of those do the right thing boxes. Now, in order to make these things a reality, we're going to have to be more demanding, and that's hard for us to do as women. We're going to have to be more demanding of our lawmakers. Now, speaking of our lawmakers, does anybody see anything a little imbalanced about them? Nah, I wish I could read the room because everybody's face is different. I'm sure you guys see a lot of imbalances, but I'm talking about one imbalance in particular. The fact that women comprise less than 30% of our governmental leadership. Would anyone care to take a guess at how many working mothers we have in Congress right now? By a show of hands, out of 535 congressional members that we have, how many of you believe that the number of working mothers in Congress is more than a quarter of Congress? How many of you think it's less? I knew I was in a smart room, man. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The exact number, 23. 23 out of 535 people. Is it really any wonder why this is not being prioritized? The populations that this continues to affect the most continue to be the least represented. So while I did posit to you this is not a political discussion, and it's not, because I don't care how you vote, how you perceive things, how you demand things, whether you run, how you're lobbying, how you're campaigning, how you are donating, is going to make a difference to how this turns out. And I expect you to do that with purpose and passion. Be mindful of an early leave request from a woman who has to go get her sick kid from daycare. To the working mothers in the room here today, I want you to do something. I want you to prove Arlene Kaplan-Daniel is very wrong. Y'all need to start seeing each other, yourselves, each other, and we need to stop pretending that we're invisible. We're not, and neither is our work. Once you master the understanding that being a mother and being a corporate executive or an attorney or a business owner is not a Sophie's choice, and you understand that investing in the working mother is investing in American society and economy, you will have surpassed Congress and a slew of family court judges across the country. So what I want from us here is to go in with the sort of confidence that an Ivy League student, a mediocre Ivy League student, takes running for president. And while you think about the handful of men that I'm talking about here, I'm going to leave you with the words that Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson left her daughters with during her confirmation hearing, in which she was asked some very interesting questions. But her last resonating message is what was most important, because it resonates with every mother here, and I could not have said this to my own daughter better. I know it has not been easy as I have tried to manage my motherhood and my career, and I fully admit that I didn't always get the balance right. But I hope that you've seen that with hard work, perseverance, and love, it can be done. I'm so looking forward to what each of you plans to do with your incredible lives in this amazing country, and I love you so much.